Hey, good morning. It's Brenda Meller with Meller Marketing, bringing you back for another live edition of my social media pie, where I bring on inspiring people to inform and educate you. Got a very special guest with me this morning, Rachel Simon. Hey, Rachel, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. And you are in Atlanta, Georgia, am I remembering? In the Atlanta area?
That is right.
Good. And how are things out in your part of the country this morning?
They are pretty good, hanging in there. It's, we're in the throes of the hottest part of the summer for sure. So, and school starts on Monday. So it should be an interesting couple of weeks, I think, as we roll into virtual school.
That's right. And when you say hottest part of the summer, what's the temperature out there today? Or what will it be, do you think?
I mean, it'll be in the high 90s, like probably mid 90s, but it's really humid. So even going out to walk the dog at 8 o'clock at night, it's steamy.
Yeah. It's like the steamy, and I'm in Michigan, and we get what I've heard is our summers, or our winters, I should say, are like your summers. You really can't go outside at all and enjoy the weather or anything like that. But I guess you take the good with the bad, and
it's true,
right? And
exactly
make way around and go for walks early in the morning or later at night, like you've done. So really. Make do with what we can. So very excited to have the conversation with you today. I want to take a moment to welcome anybody who may be watching us. We're live streaming right now to Facebook, on LinkedIn, and also on YouTube. So hey guys, if you are watching, could you do me a favor? Could you please leave a comment below? We can't see who you are and who's watching until you leave a comment. And what I love to do is when you're watching us on video, if you do leave a comment, I'm going to pull you up on screen and give you a shout out. So please leave a comment below. Let us know where in the world you're watching from, or where in the house you're watching from, because let's be honest, Rachel, right? We're all still at home right now.
Yeah, I'm actually, in a different office. So that's real exciting for today.
It's kind of like when you get sick of looking at your living room for a while, you change the couch around, and it's the same when we're doing these live videos and Zoom calls. I don't know about you, Rachel, but I get kind of sick of looking at my same background. So I'll like put different signs and, things in the background and change it up a little bit, right?
Yeah, got to shift around different parts of the house for a little variety.
And this helps to show a little bit of our personality, which is a nod to today's topic. When I booked Rachel on the show, I said, what do you want to talk about? And she said, hey, let's talk about the importance of authenticity. And I said, that's a great topic, especially since we're becoming such a digital world. And, this is how we're tell our stories about ourselves and our businesses and our brands. So before we get into that discussion, what I'd like to do, Rachel, is if you could take a few moments, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what's your business all about, and then we'll jump into that conversation.
Great. So I have a company. It's called Connect the Dots Digital. And I focus on primarily utilizing LinkedIn. So I work with subject matter experts, company leaders, executives, founders, and really help them to leverage LinkedIn in a authentic manner to make sure that they, first of all, their profile is really telling their story, that they understand their network, and are strategically developing their network and utilizing content, posting content that is going to showcase their expertise and thought leadership and really help build relationships. So whether that is through engaging with other people's content, sending out messaging, all the various things that LinkedIn, lets users do to build those relationships. So that's my primary focus with the company. And I've had that for about 2.5 years. I was doing more general marketing consulting previously and sort of decided to focus specifically on LinkedIn.
I'm on Mitch. And some of you may be watching and going, Brenda, why are you bringing Rachel on the show when Rachel is doing something very similar to you? And that's intentional, guys. I mean, I surround myself with people like Rachel who are doing very similar things to me. And the part of the reason I do that is because I learned from Rachel, and Rachel learns from me, and we collaborate with each other. And sometimes I have people that approach me that are in Atlanta saying, hey, I need some LinkedIn help. And I might say, I'd be happy to help you, but Rachel's in your backyard, and I'll flip referrals over to other folks in my network as well. So I'm a big believer of the power of co-opetition, as I learned the term from Terry Bean. Some people call it the abundance mentality. There's more than enough work to go around for all of us. And, it's what's the saying, right? A rising tide lifts all boats, right? So if we can support and lift up one another, that benefits all of us. So when I invited Rachel, yes, I knew what she did. And yes, I wanted to, still have this conversation. So Rachel, let's jump into this conversation now. We're going to talk about today the importance of authenticity. Why is this an important topic for you? And then let's start to get the conversation started here.
Well, I think that, authenticity in general is so valuable because we want to be presenting ourselves in a manner that is truly to who we are, right? The way we see the world, interact with the world, communicate with one another, and really engage. And now that we live online, which this is an important trait, I think, always, but all the more so now that we really do live so much digitally. We don't have the opportunity to really be face-to-face, to connect with people in the same way. And so making sure that all of our interactions are done in a way that really are as authentic as possible really help to build those relationships and cultivate, goodwill and, sort of positive energy, I think, in our current situation. And I think that these are traits and tools that we should be utilizing as we one day will emerge out of our basements into the real world.
We will, because this too shall pass, right?
Right, exactly.
It feels like this is forever right now, but really this is a blip in our history, and this will pass over, right?
Exactly. I 100% agree. So, when we're communicating, particularly online, and again, like we said, my focus is on LinkedIn. So a lot of what I talk about is applied, and I help my clients apply it through their LinkedIn work. Is we want to be engaging with people in a way that they want to engage with us. So putting out content that has a personality, and commenting on other people's posts, not with the nice job or good post, but what do you asking a question, maybe challenging them because you might see something slightly different. And that's a good way to showcase a little differentiator, how you, approach something, always kind of being able to showcase your unique point of view in a way that's going to get a conversation moving in a positive direction.
Good point. And I think, before COVID and, where we've been living this for so long, it's kind of hard to remember, Rachel, like what the times were from before. But before COVID, we had interactions with people in person, and then we had interactions with people online. And sometimes you hear of this kind of the two faces of leadership. You're a certain way when you're broadcasting that message out to people, and then you're a different way when you're behind closed doors or in person meeting with people. And some people struggle with that. Having authenticity, like it's a little bit like I need to make myself vulnerable here. I need to be the real person, but I want to be who people think I am. So, are you finding now that the only thing that people can do is to, interact digitally? Are they struggling more with this, the realness of the conversations? And, how do I connect with people because I don't get to see them in person anymore?
Yeah, I think it's a real challenge these days because we're really struggling with, we have a lot of tools at our disposal, which is amazing. It's great. 10 years ago, we would have been in a completely different situation if COVID had hit, right? Because we didn't have all of the technology that we have at our fingertips. That being said, it can be overwhelming. And we're all, I think, suffering to a certain extent with Zoom fatigue, right? Where it can be really exhausting. Yesterday, I was on a sort of, I have my business and I do some work through some marketing firms here in Atlanta as well. So we had a kind of team meeting with one of the firms, and they were presenting all this awesome work that people have been doing. But, an hour, 2 hours of sitting and watching other people talk on Zoom, it's draining.
Yeah.
Right. So figuring out how can you build those connections in a way where you feel like your personality comes through and that it's fun and enjoyable. I think it's a little more difficult, particularly because we really do pull energy off of each other when we're able to be face to face and, in the same room, and we're losing that right now. But, I think that there's, like I said, at least we have the tools that we have. Because 10 years ago, we would have just been all on the phone all the time on a million conference calls
God.
going, no, you go. No, sorry. So you go.
Yeah, could you imagine? I mean, there was a part of time too where we didn't even have video conferencing or party lines or whatever you want to call it, where you had the ability to talk to multiple people on the phone, and how challenging would that be? And there's a video that had been floating around for a few years. It's like conference call in real life.
Yes.
Have you seen that,
Oh
Rachel?
my God. So funny. That one is hilarious.
And if anybody watching right now, if you want to grab the YouTube link real quick and drop it into comments so other people can see it. But the whole concept is it's like the people are in a conference room and people are coming into the room and they're talking over each other, and then the dog's barking and the guy's like, yeah, I'll be off of this call real quick. It should be a quick one. And he people are like, what'd you say, Jim? But how are you dealing with the issue of being on Zoom and still maintaining connections? And I love when you said, having a little bit of fun or being a little bit playful with that. What are you doing? How are you bringing a little bit of your personality in, and maybe give us some tips on how we can do that same as well?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. It's a little easier when it's a one-on-one call, to be honest, because you can, again, like you would if you were in the same room with somebody, you can chat, make small talk, and ask some personal questions. And, like when your kid shows up in the corner and is asking for what's for lunch, kind of laugh it off. Like, my daughter likes to bomb my Zoom calls if it's someone that, some people I say no, but others it's fine. I think it is a little more challenging in a group dynamic. And this was something that I was talking to my husband about. I recently joined my synagogue board, and I'm really excited about being on the board.
Awesome.
But all of our meetings are done through Zoom. So as a brand new board member, it's really hard to, in a meeting with 13, 14 people, to be able on Zoom, you can't kind of like indicate through body language that you want to jump in and say something.
Right.
So you're either like raising your hand or just nodding or it's tough. It's really tough. So I think we miss out on that ability to have the small talk, in the room before the meeting starts.
Yeah.
And I don't really know if there is a solution to that right now in a large group meeting. I think it's just one of the things we have to figure out. Are there some things I can do offline, in a group setting, meaning like, should I make some one-to-one meetings just to get to know some people? Can I add something in the chat that is going to, be a positive addition to the conversation? But, it's a tough one, I think, on how to really effectively kind of make those connections in this virtual way.
And I'm going to drop this comment into to chat right now. And I'm asking the question, what techniques do you use in Zoom meetings to make yourself memorable? And I just had a virtual meetup this morning with an organization here in Michigan called Inform, and we had probably 40 women on the call. And what I've noticed, Rachel, is when you're doing these Zoom calls, there's really, in this meeting, there's like one person talking, or maybe two, as one person is talking and turning it over, or somebody's interrupting because they're going to talk next. Mm-hmm. But there's really like a singular, think about like a linear line. There's only one person talking at a time. Whereas to your point, if you go to a meetup or even in your board meeting situation, when you get to the meeting early, you're having side conversations with people. So one thing I've done is, when you come into the meeting, I'll chat people if I haven't seen them for a while. And I did this morning. I was like, hey, Carrie, how you doing today? And nice to see you again, Stella. And I messaged a few people. So at least we started some side chat conversations that weren't talking over people. I don't know if that's the technique that you've tried, or if you want to add anything onto that.
I think that's a great technique. And then I've been on some meetings where we have breakout rooms, which I think are really nice too, because it's a lot easier to have a conversation with 4 people, 3 people, 4 people, that where you're not, like constantly like, can I go? You go, you go. But it's really tough. I think that, that's where I think the balance is like, how can we authentically kind of show who we are and our personality when we have these barriers put up to a certain extent on the face-to-face stuff. I think, when it comes to how we are positioning ourselves digitally, like through LinkedIn or Facebook or other digital tools, it's a little bit different. I think that kind of has, The tips there are pretty tried and true, right? In that, you want to be presenting, who are you? How do you approach whatever your area of expertise and topic is in a way that other people are going to be interested and want to pay attention and engage with you?
Yeah, really good point. And I'm just dropping a couple of comments and some additional welcome messages for folks that are joining up on screen right now. Changing gears a little bit, I want to go back to, again, that we're talking today about the importance of authenticity. And I want to ask you, Rachel, you probably see a lot of mistakes that people are making when we're talking about this topic. And you don't have to name names or name companies or anything like that, but share with us some mistakes that you see people making that are not demonstrating authenticity. And what would you offer as a course correction? What could people do instead to counteract? And maybe think about some common mistakes that you're seeing or some particularly memorable ones.
Yeah. So I think one of the common ones, and it's not just an authenticity, issue of that. Yeah. It's really just general best practices and general common mistake is just sending out messaging that is so off base.
Yeah.
And the reason why I kind of think about this in the authenticity bucket is that it just shows that the sender their goal is not about getting to know you. Right. It's about pushing their message forward. Yeah. So when I get a message on LinkedIn that, I see you're an SEO expert. Well, I'm not.
Where is literally, because I'm not.
Right, there is literally nothing in my LinkedIn profile that, unless there is a word with the letters SEO in it, I'm not. So that person sending that message doesn't care about me. Mm-hmm. They care about selling their SEO services. Yeah. And I think that is something that we all probably get those kinds of messages over and over again. And they are inauthentic because it's not, the point of utilizing messaging well on LinkedIn is I want to get to know you, right. Even if you want to share some piece of content or resource, it's because I have something I think could help you versus buy from me. I like to joke that any message you get that has a lot of bullet points is probably just not worth reading.
Right. What do? I mean, you and I are both in the field. So, you get the people, most people just don't include a personal note at all when they invite you to connect. And then you get the second category, which is kind of like the salespeople, the pitching. And sometimes they don't even use your name. They're like, hey, crazy times we're in. And then they get into like a pitch about their business right away. Do you respond to those? Do you just ignore them? What do you do?
It's a good question. Sometimes I do respond if it's really a bad one. I had one person who connected with me. They looked like they would be a valuable connection and immediately just hit me up over and over and over again with sales messages. And I finally responded and I said, was like, please stop messaging me. Like, this is really not an effective way to connect. I connected with you because of, I thought you'd be a valuable connection and you are just hammering me with these.
Do you ever try to turn them into a prospect for yourself?
I have tried.
I like turning the tables on them. Like, you're going to sell to me. Hey, I'm not interested in your services, but if you need help with some LinkedIn strategy, let's talk. Here's my link. Here's my calendar. Here's my website.
Exactly. I know. It's really, there's some crazy ones. I got a connection request from somebody who in the message, they did include a message, but it included a link. I think you would have a lot of valuable things to say about my post with a link to your post. And I was thinking,
know this person or this?
No, I've never seen them, never interacted with them. Yeah. I'm like thinking that's a really ballsy way to try to get a lot of engagement on a LinkedIn post. Like, I'm not even looking at your post. I mean, no, thank you.
Right. And I think that there's something to be said. Like, I think, people are trying to game the system or, generate engagement. That's the wrong way. What's the right way? I mean, if you're posting on LinkedIn and you're trying to get engagement, Rachel, what tips do you have for people on how to do that?
Be consistent. That is probably one of the top 3 tips is really try to be consistent. And I think, you talk to, the beauty is, like you said, we do the same thing.
Right.
There are so many LinkedIn coaches and consultants out there, and everybody has their way of approaching, and nobody's right or wrong. Some people will say you need to be posting, 5 to 7 times a week. Some people will say you need to be posting 5 times a day. I feel like I want people to be choosing a goal that is achievable.
Yeah.
So if it's achievable for you to consistently post once a week, post once a week.
There you go.
And then you can move it to twice a week as you feel more confident, because a big barrier is just that confidence piece of, one client I work with, she's got great stuff and she's just so nervous to get it out there because she is worried that people won't like it. And like, just start. It's okay. Yeah. It'll be fine. So be consistent. And then I think just put up content that people will connect with. And every post won't be a winner. It's okay. I put one up this week. I was sort of excited about it. Do you watch Schitt's Creek? That show, Schitt's Creek?
I don't, but I've heard of it.
It's really funny. It's really funny.
Okay.
So I was watching an episode and one of the characters was trying to pitch herself, and she was like, I prefer to be called a freelance brand invigorator. So like 10:30 at night, I was like, all right, I need to remember, I got to write a LinkedIn post with this because that is just too funny as like a title.
Yeah.
And I put up a post and I was sort of sad. It didn't get as much engagement, but it's okay. Every post won't be a winner, right? Other posts, maybe you just put something out there that really resonates with your audience and you get great engagement. And this is something you do a great job of, is responding to comments.
Yeah.
Really makes such a huge difference, and it really builds relationships, and I think you and I built a relationship. This is the first time we've had a conversation.
It is, yeah.
But we have built a relationship by engaging with each other's posts, communicating through messaging. You can build relationships without ever meeting somebody face to face or having talking to them through a call. I mean, it can be done. And I think I have a good number of people who I've really gotten to know just by, communicating with them through LinkedIn.
Yeah, just through messaging. And for me, I like, I handpick people to be on my show, and I handpick people that I think, and kind of going back to, this whole show is like, I call it social media pie. And Jeff Young helped me to come up with the acronym. I don't know. Do you know Jeff? He's a LinkedIn trainer out of Ohio. Yeah. So Jeff, and I'm like, I want to use the word pie, but what can I? And he's like, well, use the words you have in there. So it's inspiring people to inform and educate you. So I always pick, those individuals. But I think authenticity is something I always look for. And I don't have it as a part of my description, but that's definitely something that I saw from you, from our interactions within our posts, the information you were sharing. And I'm like, I think she'd be a great person to come on the show. So even though we really haven't talked in person, I feel like I know you, because of our interactions and our personality. And I'm like, this is going to be a great show. I can tell her energy level is similar, her orientation towards people, her focus on engagement, all of those things. I think it's going to be a fun conversation. So for me, that's really important. And I saw a comment coming in, I think it was from Paul Sherwood, and I want to pull it up on screen right now and segue this conversation. Paul says, not all salespeople send crazy pitches right off the bat. And I know Paul has sales as a part of his role as well, Rachel. So, some people get it right. So how would you describe the approach for folks that are watching that are using LinkedIn for business development, lead generation, their salespeople? What's the right approach to take in terms of messaging or what you're posting or engaging with people? Give us a couple tips there.
Yeah. And Paul, I agree. Not all salespeople send crazy pitches. That is very true. I think it's, again, starting like, the way I would, the analogy I would use is like, if you were at a party, but remember when we used to go to parties, you would never meet somebody.
Yeah.
And then pitch them like, hi, I'm Rachel. Do you need some LinkedIn help? I think you do. Let me tell you about my LinkedIn packages. You have a conversation, you ask them some questions, you listen to them. And so let's just start at the basics. If you send a connection request, to somebody who would deem to be a target or somebody who would be of interest to you potentially for business, is there some question you can ask them? Is there a post that they put up recently that you can refer to? I really liked what you had to say about XYZ.
Yeah.
What drew you to this line of work? So start building that rapport, and then you can, the door starts to open for you as a sales professional or whomever. Look, we're doing business development too, and we're not sales professionals, right?
Yeah.
To offer the value that you have and see if that might be of interest to the person. So,
yeah. And a follow-up to that, Paul is saying, responding to comments is a dialogue you would have had if you have a person. And I kind of say, like, it's like when you're in the coffee room at work. If somebody looks at you and Rachel and they say, wow, Rachel, I love your new haircut. It looks great on you. You wouldn't just like give them a thumbs up and walk away. You would like, right? And that's what some people do when they're, they post on LinkedIn, and then a bunch of people put a bunch of very sizable comments, 5 or more words or a couple sentences. And then all you do is you give it a like. And it's kind of like the same thing. Like if somebody gives you a compliment in person, you don't just say thank you. You turn to them and you say, thanks. I've been putting off my haircut through the pandemic. I finally got it done. You're like, right. You would, and that, I think that speaks a little bit to authenticity. Would you agree, Rachel?
Absolutely. Yes. And, if someone takes the time to comment on your post in a meaningful way, again, I'm not talking about the nice post that gets a thumbs up, because what do you say other than thank you? Yeah. But when somebody is really putting some thought into a comment, then absolutely they are opening the door for you to respond. And then what I love about it is if it's someone you're not connected to, that opens the door to you to send a connection request saying, really appreciate you commenting on my post. I'd love to connect.
Yeah. So related to that, sometimes I get people asking, well, how soon should I send them that invitation? If we've had a dialogue, should I do it right away? If I know they're online, or should I wait? Does that make me look too eager? What would you say to that?
I would just go ahead and do it. I mean, you're already top of mind. And in my experience, that when I tend to send those pretty quickly, they tend to get accepted pretty quickly. There was a woman I commented on, I think she had tagged John Asperian, who is another awesome LinkedIn marketing guy. Yeah. And so that's why it showed up in my news feed. I commented and checked out her profile, and she seemed awesome, and sent her a connection request, and we connected right away. So why wait?
Yeah, there you go. And that's, I think that's part of the authenticity. I mean, we're not trying to pull one over on people by inviting them to connect. We're trying to build a relationship with them by adding them as a connection when the moment occurs, because if you do it a week later, they might go, was that the Rachel that I talked to you about? I mean, they may not be able to place you, right? Because the time has gone on too far.
Agree. Yeah. And, this person, I really liked their branding for they had a really cool logo and sort of company name. And I referenced that in my little message. It's nice to compliment people.
Yeah, it is. Well. And to your earlier point, it shows them that you're actually taking the time to get to know them, and that you've actually taken the time to look at their profile. And sometimes I hear people, Rachel, saying, well, that takes too much time. I don't want to do that. It just seems like that would be really time consuming. And what's your response to that?
I think it depends on what you're trying to achieve. So if you're just trying to collect people, then it does take a lot of time to look at every single person's profile. But if you're trying to actually strategically develop a network that is aligned to who you are, what you're trying to achieve, then taking the extra minute to click into their profile and find something that you can talk about is worthwhile.
Yeah.
Different people have different goals on LinkedIn. I mean, I will say again, I'm sorry to not to be a hater, but I feel like the most inauthentic things I see on LinkedIn is the comment below and connect with everyone who comments posts. I just don't like those posts. I feel like, who are
what's the value in that?
We all want a big network, believe me. Right. We all want a big network, and but
It feels a little gimmicky to me. It feels a little like, yeah, like, and I get it. It's a way to quickly grow, but to what end, just to grow,
Exactly. And there's certain people who I've seen who will post something like that 1 to 2 times a week.
Right.
And I think I don't feel like it's as gimmicky for the people who are wanting to grow their network, because I completely understand wanting to have as large a network as you can have. I think that it's gimmicky in that it is automatically going to have a tremendous amount of engagement. Yeah. And it's sort of like what you had said earlier, it's gaming the system a little bit.
Right.
I'm going to get, 1,000 likes and 500 comments.
So it benefits the person, but maybe not
That's what I mean. Yes, it benefits
the participants of that. And we're going to start to move into, kind of Q&A for you guys. And this is your chance. If you have any LinkedIn questions, we got a LinkedIn expert right over here. So let's ask you.
I'm going the wrong way.
Everything's like backwards. Let's point at each other right now. This will be a YouTube still photo. There we go. So this is your time. If you guys have any LinkedIn questions, throw them up in the comments now. And there's about a 10-second delay from the time that I say, hey, do you have any questions, for it to go live on video? And then, now I'm pointing to the comment below and reminding you guys, you have to actually comment and go into comments and type it in. So I'm going to give you a minute to think of your questions to put in there. And then I want to pull up a couple of additional folks that are joining us here today. Paul's been very, very active in here. And we're international. We've got people from all over the world watching today.
I love it.
Folks from India. I saw a couple folks from Atlanta, from your area. We have Angela joining us from East Texas. Angela, you've got a very clever hashtag. Can you help me to remember? It's something with the word perky as a part of it. If you could throw the hashtag in there. It's a very clever hashtag, and it's related to her name. So there's her name.
Cute. Yeah, Perkins.
So, and it reminds me of, like, I've never met you, Angela, in person, but when you use the word perky or perkiness or something like that, it makes me think of your personality. And I'm getting to know you without ever having met you in person. So there's a genuineness and an authenticity that Angela is creating within her post there as well. So really a neat thing to do. So let's see. I'm waiting to see if there's any additional questions coming in. I'm going to pop onto LinkedIn just to see, because sometimes StreamYard doesn't push the questions too quickly. I'm going to throw you a couple questions. I am frequently asked. There's the hashtag. There you go, Angela. Thank you. So Rachel, a question I'm frequently asked is, what are the biggest mistakes you see people making on LinkedIn? So for the folks that are watching today, what are some common mistakes, and how can they fix those mistakes that they're making?
Well, I think we talked a little bit about the messaging stuff. So really using messaging in a valuable way, as valuable as possible. I think that there is a huge, I don't want to say value, but the LinkedIn messages are really something that can help push things over, sort of the line if they're done well. So utilizing those in the most effective way possible. Mm-hmm. I think one of the big mistakes people make is they don't know who's in their network. Mm. So this is something I see often with clients, and it's one of the first things I do with people is ask them to download their LinkedIn connections. And half the time the response is, you can do that?
Yeah.
But, a lot of us joined 10 plus years ago. Do you know everyone in your network? Now you have a much larger network than I do, but even of the 1,400-ish people that I'm connected to, I don't know. I can't remember who all those people are. Mm-hmm. If you have 500 plus, you're going on thousands of people. I guarantee you cannot possibly keep up with everybody. Yeah. And the ability to download that into a spreadsheet and be able to review it makes such a big difference, particularly if you're looking to see, is your network reflective of your business targets? Mm-hmm. So sorting it by whatever those qualifiers might be. So for some people, it's going to be more title-based. Some people it's going to be more company-based, but really being able to use that as a tool to understand who you're connected to, because one of two things generally happens, and I recommend people either realize my network is a mess and I'm not connected to my targets at all, or there's like these hidden gems in there that they totally forgot about. So people who have switched positions, gotten promoted, are now decision makers, those are business targets and you already know them.
Right.
So it's great reason to reach back out and kind of reconnect with them.
Do you ever disconnect from people, Rachel? And if so, what's your criteria for removing a connection and then the next level up from that, blocking them?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever blocked anybody. And I would say blocking would probably be if someone's really nasty and like disrespectful.
Right.
And I do believe, as opposed to our other social media platforms, for the most part, people are pretty nice on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
At least in my experience. I know that there is definitely some nastiness, and women in particular have reported some inappropriate things,
harmony-ish things,
dating things. That being said, I think in comparison to some others like that, where there's a little more toxic nature, LinkedIn is pretty nice. But I would block someone if they were being ugly.
Okay.
Or disrespectful. I did end up disconnecting from that person I had talked about earlier, who just kept hitting me with sales messages because I just decided that they were not going to be a valuable connection to me. They didn't care about me. They cared about me buying their services. So no,
and there's levels too, Rachel. I mean, there's like, you can disconnect from someone, or you can unfollow them, you can disconnect from them, or you can block them. And each level kind of takes that relationship, severs it even further.
Yeah,
right?
I have unfollowed a few people, more because they just kept posting like content that really just wasn't helpful, I guess. Yeah. And it kept showing up in my newsfeed constantly.
Wasn't interesting. Yeah. So I see one question did come in. I'm going to pull it up on screen here. So Amit has created a group and invited some people. So I'm assuming, Amit, you're referring to, you created a LinkedIn group, and that's something you're posting within the group. You may be referring to a group chat, but at any rate, you're using a hashtag with the group name. It is not reaching in my group created by me. What would be the reason for how to rectify? So let's assume, Rachel, that Amit is referring to a LinkedIn group first, and then maybe let's talk about if he's referring to a chat group next.
Yeah, it sounds like I'm unclear. Is he posting in the regular newsfeed about his group?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what your feeling on LinkedIn groups are. I think that LinkedIn has a lot of improvement opportunities when it comes to groups. I'll leave it at that. For whatever reason, they just do not function as well as a Facebook group does. And so I don't put a lot of time and effort into a group strategy unless it's a group where like the members are extremely engaged with it. I think it's really tough to get that engagement going in a lot of ways. And I don't know why LinkedIn struggles with that, because
it used to be more visible back, years ago. They had groups were a little bit easier to find and you can get notifications. Now that it's like tucked under a couple layers and you got to go like 2 clicks deep in order to see the notifications. And it's tricky, but for that reason, I've seen some people, Rachel, if they want to get more reach, they might post something on their timeline first and then share that post link in the group.
Yeah. I think it so depends on, again, who's in your group. Is it a group that was created specifically so you had a place to talk?
Right.
I think creating little group chats actually works better in that regard, but they can't be too many people or it's overwhelming.
Yeah, really good point. Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, so I'm seeing that we're reaching the end of our time here today, Rachel. So we're going to start to close the conversation here today. And while we are doing so, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up your LinkedIn URL up on screen, and then I'm going to pull up your profile up on screen. While I'm doing that, Rachel, are you open to accepting connections from anybody watching here today, or what's your philosophy on invitation requests?
Absolutely. I would love to connect if you're watching today, and just let me know that you logged in and were online with us. That would be awesome. I think it's great to meet new people and sort of expand your network.
Yeah, awesome. And I think we got a comment from, is this Kaya? She's self-identified, so that's why I'm pulling her up on screen right now. But hi, Kaya. Thank you for watching us today. So I love seeing things like this. You know, this is kind of a testimonial for folks like Rachel and the work that she's doing. Kaya, hopefully you have used the same language and a recommendation for Rachel too. So give her a recommendation on LinkedIn and tell people that. But thank you so much.
So great. And our problem is that we have like a standing weekly 30-minute call, and we spend 15 minutes of it just like, you know, gabbing, because we genuinely really enjoy talking to one another. And then we're like, okay, we need to focus. She is so great and has so much to offer. And so I'm going to keep pushing her to get over her fear of sort of showcasing the awesome voice that she has.
Well, I'm going to make an effort to go on to Kaya's timeline right after I get off this call and I'll add a comment to one of her latest posts. And I would encourage my viewers to do the same as well. Help to share some love with her. And on that note, as we wrap here today, guys, I'd love it if you could leave a comment for Rachel. I love this interview. I thought Rachel offered us a lot of great comments. You know, we were talking today about the importance of authenticity. Her authenticity came through to me. So if you enjoyed the conversation with Rachel, I'd love it if you could drop us a comment and say, thank you, Rachel, or something to that effect. And then when you leave the video, please just go back to it real quick and then click to share the video, because it may reach someone in your network who is struggling with authenticity. Maybe it's one of those salespeople that is pitching in the invitations, or maybe it's someone who's just really struggling with how do I be myself and how do I post effectively and get engagement. But you never know where that can reach someone. And I'd also encourage you to go on mellermarketing.com/subscribe. You can join my VIP email list and you'll get notification of my upcoming LinkedIn Live interviews, as well as some LinkedIn strategy tips. So Rachel, as we finish the conversation off today, any final comments you'd like to share with the group, shout outs, anything you're working on right now that you'd like to promote or tell people about?
Well, I just want to start off by thanking you for having me on. It's really fun. And I agree that even though this is the first time we've had a conversation, I feel like we know each other really well. And it's just been a real thrill for me. So I would just encourage everyone, to jump in and not be afraid to show your personality. We all have so much to offer. And I think right now with the current, situation, we all are also very open and, here to support one another in any way that we possibly can. So just go do it.
Awesome.
Connect with me on LinkedIn. That would be my shout out.
Well, Rachel, thank you so much for your time. I was actually in Atlanta back in February for a conference, and I don't think I didn't do a good enough job of looking people up before, because if I had, I would have said, hey, let's meet for coffee when I was in town. But I was there for a conference, and it was before everything started happening with COVID. But I hope to make it back there someday. And if so, I'd love to have the chance to meet you in person.
Absolutely. When we travel again someday, it would be lovely.
All right. Thank you again, Rachel. And thank you
so much.
All of you. Yeah. Thanks to all of you for watching us today. And whether you're watching this live or watching us in playback, do leave a comment, share the video along with others, and be sure to join us again here on my social media pie. This is Brenda Meller with Meller Marketing. Stay safe and stay healthy and have a great day, everyone. We'll see you later.